Anselm, after writing the Monologion, decided that he wanted to write a more direct and supreme approach to the existence of God. He wanted to prove that God was real with one argument instead of many other individual arguments. So he writes the Proslogion. And in the Proslogion, he makes a very strong argument that God is supreme and he's absolutely divine. And through that supremacy and that divinity, he proves the very existence of God. I felt like that as he writes, the way that he writes, by using prayer and his ideas, that you see his heart. And his heart is this: I want you and myself to know the Creator. And not only do I want that to happen, I want you to know the one who saved me. And you can see that and see his heart as he writes through prayer and ideas. Some of his ideas, one of them really took me a minute to be able to really focus on the phrase, something then which nothing greater can be thought. That was a tough one for me. So I took God out of the equation. I sat and I thought the same process, okay? So I start thinking about the Big Bang and subatomic particles and all these things, and they break down to something, to something, to something. And then eventually you run out of somethings. And that means that nothing had to be out there. And in nothingness, material was created. So there's no way possible for nothingness to get to something created. You can't get material out of nothing. And so when you look at it that way and you start thinking, you add God back to it. Well, God says, I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. We know God lives outside of time. And so we have this God who exists. And I can't think of anything greater than him. I can't think of anything before him. I can't think of anything that could be anything that could be created outside of him creating it. And so that kind of proves the thought process that Anselm had, that nothing can exist without being created by God. And if we could think of something higher than that, then obviously God must not exist. And so since we can't, then God does exist. I think you made a great argument there. How can God be and not be? How can God do all things and then not be able to do certain things? How can God be just and then also show mercy? And so we look at a couple of those ideas, and they're really neat because, I've been asked before, can God build a rock that he can't move? And we know that to be true. I know that God can. He can do that because he did it with the human free will. He made a rock that he can't move. He says, here it is. You have it. He didn't make me wear this blue shirt today. But the truth of the matter is, he can, if he wanted to, he could step in. But God has a set of principles, a set of ideas. Can God tell a lie? No, because God's truth. His set of principles allow him to do that. Could God tell a lie? Absolutely. He would still be God if he broke those principles, but he set that line. He created mankind with free will, and we have the ability to make choices. And God could come in and say, you can't do that anymore, but he chooses not to. And so also when you look at the mercy part, the only place that I kind of differed from Anselm in his ideas is that when it comes to justice and mercy, and the fact that God shows mercy to certain people, and does that give him really justice? Well, where he shows mercy is the fact that he took something that paid that price, which was animal sacrifices, or then Jesus dying on the cross, and it's the shedding of blood that becomes the remission of sin. And so in that, justice happens all the time. Even when God's showing mercy, he's still being just because blood has been paid. The price has been paid. The ultimate price has been paid. And so because God lives outside of our time, our spirit, and everything that came into being, angels and all those things, they came in after God. God was from the beginning, always has been, and at some point in time, he created these other beings that will be eternal with him. But he started it. He's from the beginning. And so a great argument on Anselm's behalf. All right, looking at Thomas Aquinas. He writes the Anthropology of the Body and the Soul to try to clarify a large argument of what the soul is, where it resides, what it's made up of, how it performs. Can the soul exist in absence of the body? And does it age and corrupt itself with the body, or does it not? And so we look, first of all, is the man and the soul the same being? Yes, I believe that to be true. I think I agree here with Aquinas. I believe that he makes a great point that the soul is uniquely designed for the body, and that those two things together make up the person. we kind of know this to be true. Why would you have a rapture? Why would you believe, why would God rapture up people? So I don't believe in the rapture. But if you look on into Revelations, God's even going to rapture from the dead the lost people. He's going to pull people out of hell and all those things. They're going to be united with their body and they're going to stand before judgment. So since we know that to be true, the body plays a part of who we are. The soul is immortal, but the body itself, it does play a role in who we are. I like the idea that he spoke of when he said that God breathed into the body, and that breath into the body may allow the body to be the form of which the soul already is. And so I thought that was pretty neat. He talks about animal souls being corruptible versus humans because we're different. God breathed into mankind. He didn't breathe into animals. Animals die. Their soul dies. Mankind, totally different. We're God-breathed people. We're made in His image. We're spiritual beings, much like angels and those things. We have our own form, our own individualism. And so our soul is and our being is our soul and our flesh is united in a very specific way. All right, the power of the soul is directed to where it exists. If it exists in the flesh, it helps guide our flesh. It helps gives us motion. It helps us know when to eat and all those things. It controls our personality. And I think once the soul moves on from flesh to afterlife, it becomes like the story of rich man and Lazarus. We know that there's still knowledge of things that's happened. There's still a knowledge of all these things, but there's no need for the flesh anymore. I don't need fleshly things. I don't have fleshly desires. It's different because the soul is outside the body itself. All right, so this brings me to two questions. Did Anselm's prayers help you as much as it did me to see his heart in what he was writing? The second one is we know that demons are fallen angels, and Aquinas states that two souls cannot inhabit the body, as Plato said. So with that being said, when Jesus cast out the demons into the swine, the man had many spiritual beings inside of him. So what is your view, and how does your idea may change when you think about more than one substantive being inside a one person who already has a soul? Is that possible? Does that work that way? And if it does, what makes it different from two souls being in one?